This next clip was posted by a TikTok creator named Willow, who has found himself at the center of a very localized, very persistent haunting. In his home, the paranormal activity seems obsessively focused on one specific door that simply refuses to stay shut. After posting his initial videos of the anomaly, a commenter suggested he try a more direct approach to communicate with whatever was opening it. The method they suggested was a rudimentary alphabet system, the kind that was used on Hector Salamanca in Breaking Bad. You ask a question, slowly run through the ABCs, and wait for the entity to signal on the correct letter. Willow decided to test the theory, and this is what happened.
Right, so someone suggested that what I should do is with the door, when it opens, what I should do is I should communicate with whatever it is and start like doing like the alphabet, a bit like that scene in Breaking Bad with Hector Salamanca when they're doing the Ouija board and he rings his bell when it's the right letter. So let's have a look and see. Right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Nothing happened. That's disappointing. That's really disappointing. I was hoping like something exciting happened there. Nothing did. So I'm going to try it again. So if there's anything in this room with me right now, I don't want you to open the door. I want you to communicate with me. So when I say a certain letter, I want you to spell something out. So let's start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, K, L, M, N, O, P. Nothing's happening. That is so disappointing. You want to do a Ouija board, is that it? Oh. Now it opens. So I've literally gone through. Right, I've literally gone through the alphabet 2 times, and now it opens.
Because the internet is naturally skeptical, Willow's comment section immediately filled with people claiming the video was staged. So, he did what any frustrated homeowner would do. He released the synchronized CCTV footage of the exact same moment to prove that the hallway behind the door was entirely empty. But of course, the skepticism didn't stop there. One particularly vocal commenter accused Willow of faking the entire ordeal, explicitly stating that he thinks his followers were thick and that someone was obviously just hiding behind the door, pushing it open. In paranormal research, there is a concept known as intelligent response. It's the terrifying moment an entity stops acting randomly and begins reacting directly to human interaction. Willow wanted to prove, once and for all, that he was dealing with an intelligent response. So, he sets up an undeniable experiment. He records himself physically closing the door, walks downstairs so both he and the door are in the frame of his CCTV, points his phone camera back up the stairs, and verbally demands the entity to open it. And this is what happened.
Right, so this is a response to someone who commented here. Got Deborah Evans saying that I think you're all thick and someone just opened the door. So yeah, you are right. I do think you're thick, but not my audience, just you specifically, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this door. Look, close the door. Now I'm going to go downstairs so you can see I'm nowhere near the door. Right. If there's anyone in this house right now, open that door. Right. And look, there's the camera recording me. So you can see. Well, you can see with your own eyes, both sides of the door. So, yeah, explain that one, Deborah.
By providing both the phone perspective and the CCTV angle simultaneously, Willow completely eliminated the possibility of an accomplice. As he noted in his response, this wasn't just a random draft or a trick of the hinges, it was an entity actively reacting to a specific vocal stimulus. This is a crucial distinction. It's one thing to have a ghost in your house that echoes past events. It is an entirely different, far more dangerous reality when the entity starts listening and taking orders. It proves it is aware. Willow even mentioned considering bringing a Ouija board into the house to get answers, though his followers are desperately begging him not to. And just to prove that this intelligence extends beyond just playing with hinges, take a look at this final piece of evidence from Willow's living room. According to Willow, skeptics constantly try to debunk this falling whiteboard as just gravity or a faulty hook, but there is a deeply unsettling pattern to it. The board only seems to violently detach from the wall after his daughter draws a picture on it. Furthermore, the camera's motion sensor almost never triggers when the event happens, suggesting the movement doesn't register as a physical displacement of mass in a way the technology can recognize. Why would an unseen force specifically target a child's drawing? In the study of poltergeists, activity often centers around the energy of children or adolescents. Tearing down a drawing isn't a random act of gravity, it's a calculated display of jealousy, or perhaps a sinister attempt to interact with the youngest, most vulnerable member of the household. If this entity is intelligent enough to open a door on command, it is intelligent enough to know exactly whose artwork it is throwing to the floor. The following footage was captured by a security guard on a routine night patrol through an industrial building in Cali, Colombia. There is a recurring theme in paranormal research regarding massive, empty commercial buildings. During the day, they are filled with noise, movement, and human energy. But at night, when the machines power down and the halls go dark, that residual energy has to go somewhere. And for the night shift, security guards tasked with patrolling these sprawling, empty spaces alone, it often feels like they are being watched by something that never clocks out. Watch what happens to it.
¿Quién anda ahí? Puta la escalera. Escalera caída. Pucha. Aquí no hay nadie. ¿Quién anda ahí? Todo está acá. No hay nadie. Esto está raro. Muy raro. Yo escuché como si alguien caminara acá arriba. Puta, abajo. ¿Quién anda ahí? No te tengo miedo. Uy, jueputa. No te tengo miedo. Puta. Se siente un ambiente pesado. Un ambiente pesado. No puedo ni respirar bien. Las cosas que se cayeron. La loción. Sea lo que sea, no te tengo miedo. Para nada te tengo miedo.
There are a few crucial details that make this footage so compelling. First, look at the physics of the object's movement. That yellow bottle didn't just tip over from a passing vibration or a draft. It was launched with a sudden, violent burst of kinetic energy, as if it was forcefully swiped off the cabinet by an unseen hand. But perhaps the most authentic part of this video is the guard's reaction. He takes a few cautious steps down to investigate, but whatever heavy, localized dread he feels in that space immediately overwhelms him. He doesn't try to be a hero. He turns around and fast walks out of the sector. It's the raw, instinctual flight response of someone whose primal brain has just confirmed that the room is no longer empty. But what happens when someone's flight response doesn't kick in? What happens when, instead of running away, a person decides to stand their ground in the dark and try to negotiate with the unseen? That brings us to our next piece of footage. In this clip, the same man is filming a dark corner of the building, focused entirely on a heavy green metal locker tucked under a staircase. Rather than fleeing, he is actively trying to communicate with whatever is hiding in the shadows, asking in Spanish, "Why are you doing this? How can I help you?"
¿Por qué haces esto? ¿En qué puedo ayudarte? ¿Qué necesitas? Dime, ¿necesitas algo? ¿En qué puedo ayudarte? Pero no me hagas esto. ¿En qué puedo ayudarte?
In paranormal profiling, there is a terrifying threshold known as the intelligent response. It is the moment an entity stops acting like a random glitch in the environment and proves that it is actively listening. When the man first asks how he can help, the top door of the locker slowly, deliberately creaks open. It's a calculated acknowledgement. Amazingly, the man stays completely calm. He continues to try and reason with it, asking again what it needs, before finally pleading, "Don't do this to me." But instead of escalating with flying objects or violent noises, the entity gives a much quieter but equally chilling response. The locker door simply closes itself. This wasn't a random gust of wind. This was an act of deliberate, cold dismissal. By responding to a genuine offer of help, by slowly shutting the door in his face, the entity is sending a very clear message. It doesn't want his help. It has no interest in negotiating, and it cannot be reasoned with. It leaves us with a chilling thought. If attempting to communicate with an attachment only results in it shutting you out, what are you supposed to do when you realize it's not going anywhere? The following footage comes from a psychic intuitive working in a toy store that is located within a fading, ghost town-like mall. For over a year, she and a fellow paranormal investigator have found that the FAO Schwartz floor pianos in the shop can be remarkably reliable tools for spirit communication. She had set the floor piano aside for about a week, and during that time, she kept hearing isolated notes here and there when the store was empty, easy enough to brush off. But then one day, she heard something that was a little harder to dismiss. What stands out about this particular moment compared to earlier recordings is how different it feels in tone. Past interactions tended to be scattered, random notes, no real pattern. This time, it sounds more deliberate, almost like something is working something out. If you listen closely, there's a point where it starts to come together, like whatever's playing is finding its footing and settling into a melody.
Is this you? If it is, keep playing. Thank you.
The owner of the video believes that Ruth may have been an organist while she was alive. A lot of people in the comments have pointed out that these kinds of empty, in-between spaces, barely alive malls, vacant storefronts, might be exactly the kind of places where energy builds up undisturbed, making it easier for something to come through clearly. It's also worth noting that the piano was confirmed to be in manual mode, so there was no pre-programmed track running in the background. So, is this a spectral performer finding a new stage in a dying mall, or just a series of technical anomalies? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip is about a man named Nick, the manager of a local yogurt shop who spent months dismissing the ghost stories shared by his evening staff. His employees had reported flickering bulbs, shifting shadows, objects moving on their own, and a heavy, watchful presence that seemed to intensify during the closing shift. As a pragmatist, Nick attributed these incidents to the quirks of an older building, faulty wiring, or perhaps just tired imaginations. That skepticism vanished, however, the moment he experienced the activity firsthand.
Okay, I'm literally at work right now. I'm alone. That's my car. There is not one other car in the parking lot. Look, the freaking light's flickering from the reflection in the window. I don't know what's going on. I'm here alone, and this is what I deal with that I usually don't catch on camera. This is the light switch. Ready? This? Oh, I think I stopped it. Did I stop it? No, I didn't. I didn't stop it. I don't know what's going on, and this makes absolutely no sense. And now it stopped. Good. And ready? Here we go. Because that makes sense, right? This is what I deal with, and no one understands. And of course I'm here alone, and this is like a friggin' murder house. This is my security cameras. There's no one here, so I don't understand. Oh my God, Jesus Christ. Hello?
While a flickering light might be a simple electrical surge, it cannot explain the mechanical force required to topple a heavy chair in an empty attic. What really got under Nick's skin though was the sound. Somewhere in the back of the building, he started hearing a soft, melodic voice, a young girl humming or singing quietly. It wasn't the first time anyone had heard it. Several staff members had reported the exact same thing during late night shifts. A lot of people believe this kind of thing is what's called a residual haunting. Basically, a moment from the past that got somehow etched into a place and just keeps replaying. Worth mentioning too that the shop sits right next door to a building that's been closed up and empty for a while now. Some investigators think abandoned spaces like that tend to collect energy over time and that it can quietly drift into whatever's nearby. Things gradually shifted from eerie background noise to something more direct. One night, Nick and one of his employees were packing up to leave when the light started flickering again. He pulled out his phone and started recording. When they made their way over to the desk, everything they'd carefully arranged on it was scattered across the floor. Nothing else in the room had been touched, just the items on that desk, spread out like something had swept straight through them.
Okay guys, we were literally just about to leave my store when shit just started flickering again. This is the second time it's happened. My car's over there, and...
I'm shaking right now.
Okay, and her keys are in the...
I need to go. We need to go get my keys.
And the light turned on.
I don't want to go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna literally record this whole thing just so you guys can see what happened. I'm literally scared. Okay, okay, something... The bathroom light's on too.
What the fuck? What's this like? Bro, why are my keys on the fucking floor? They were not there. Like, my dad put them on the desk. Like, oh my god. What the hell?
This is literally insane.
Things got really serious on that same night. While he was still recording, something was thrown and it flew right past Nick's face, close enough that there was no mistaking it. You can hear exactly how they reacted in the moment.
Okay guys, we've been sitting in the back for like 20 minutes now, and we're just watching the cameras and stuff is still flickering and going on, but nothing happened back here, and we need to go home, and this is so freaking terrifying.
We're 50 minutes past our shift because of this shit. Like,
We closed at 10, so we need to like, it's so dark because all the light switches are over here.
Stop it. Stop. No, fuck no, fuck no.
Okay, this is what I mean. This room is over.
Fucking god.
This is
Oh my god.
this is what we're dealing with.
Oh my god, yo, what the fuck? Bro, Nick, did you fucking do this on purpose?
I
Yes. No, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, Nick.
Stop! You're literally. Are you?
No, wait, no. Nah.
No.
That didn't just
We literally looked away for like 2 seconds.
walking, 'cause, like, what?
For Nick, that was the breaking point. He was filming in the dark not long after and felt like whatever was there had shifted its attention directly onto him. A few days later, Nick returned to the shop early in the morning and everywhere was quiet and empty, the kind of calm you'd expect at that hour. But it didn't last long. The lights started flickering again, and this time the music system began acting up too, cutting in and out on its own. Whatever's in that building doesn't seem to keep a schedule.
Okay, we're gonna peace out for the night. Okay, we're gonna peace out for the night. This is, I can't even put the key in. This is what we deal with at Twirls and Twirls, and no one believes us because who would? Who really would? And the backlights.
So is this fucking possessed by a demon? So I'm
No,
quitting.
the light's still on.
Like,
I don't think we turned it off though, but now the machine lights are on. Good. This is great. This is great. Okay guys, I'm here alone. It's a few days later, and it's 6 o'clock. I'll show you the time. The lights are freaking flickering again. The music is being wacky. The speakers are in the ceiling. Like, this is literally insane. And now they stopped. And now they're like, this is what I mean. Nothing. Like, I don't know how to explain this. The switch is right here. This is.
As the crew was wrapping up on another night, a camera caught a topping lid getting swept clean off the counter with no one near it. Moments later, the lights they'd just switched off started flickering back on, almost like something was moving through the room.
Hey, it's 11:29. Me and Nick were supposed to leave here at 11 o'clock, but weird shit is happening.
A chair fell. There's lights
Literally,
flickering on the machines.
there is lights flickering everywhere.
A chair fell.
It's freaking me out.
I mean, what the f*** is that? There's actual footsteps going on in the ceiling right now. And something just fell over here. Is anyone there?
I'm scared. Oh, stop! Stop! Oh my god! Please stop!
Is that pattern, physical objects being moved, lights responding, is often associated with poltergeist activity, which tends to start small and slowly build. So, quiet shop, a child's voice you can't place, and then objects moving through the air. I'll leave it to you to decide what you'd make of that. This next clip was filmed by a woman vacationing in Cape Cod. She'd come back to the family's beach house early while everyone else stayed down at the shore, and for a little while she had the whole place to herself. She decided to take a shower, just a quiet, ordinary moment. What she didn't know was that the house might not have been as empty as it felt. There's something people who know Cape Cod well often mention, this idea that the salt air and the long history of the coastline seems to hold on to things, that the energy there is different, heavier in a way, like the land itself remembers. Whether or not you put stock in that, it's an interesting backdrop for what her camera picked up when she stepped out of the bathroom. Keep your eyes on the door. She was sure she was alone, and that's what makes it so unsettling. Not just what you see, but the context around it. In paranormal circles, this kind of thing is sometimes called a voyeuristic haunting, where a presence seems to wait for a quiet, solitary moment before making itself known. Some people in the comments suggested it could be something simpler, an older beach house, a draft, some weak door screws. And maybe that's the case, but she said herself that no explanation has ever fully sat right with her. Whatever it was, it's never been definitively explained, and as far as anyone knows, it's still a mystery. This next video starts about as casually as it gets. Someone filming their cat chasing a fly around the room. The kind of thing you record purely because it's funny and your pet is being ridiculous, with nothing about the setup feeling unusual at all, until something else happens in the background while the cat is busy with the fly. Watch closely. Right there, the crocs sitting on the floor begin to roll on their own with no one near them and no obvious reason for it. And naturally, the first place people landed in the comments was a string, which is a fair instinct. Except that if someone were actually pulling a shoe across the floor with a string, you'd expect it to drag or catch or move in that slightly jerky, uneven way that tends to give the trick away. Whereas these roll smoothly and more than once, with no visible string, no visible hand, and no one in the frame who could account for it. The woman who recorded it has also mentioned that this isn't the first strange thing to happen inside that house, which once you know, it reframes the whole clip in a different light. And then there's the added detail that her home sits very close to a burial site, which for some people is just a footnote, but for others changes the entire conversation. It's also worth bringing up the cat, because across a huge range of cultures and traditions, and honestly, among a lot of everyday pet owners too, cats are widely believed to pick up on things that humans simply can't perceive, with people regularly describing their cats staring at empty corners, tracking invisible movement across a ceiling, or reacting to something in a room that feels completely still to everyone else. And while there's never been a clean scientific explanation for it, the accounts are consistent enough and widespread enough that they're hard to dismiss entirely, which makes it worth asking. When the cat in this clip suddenly breaks away from the fly and bolts toward the gate, whether it was startled by the shoes moving or whether it saw something else first, something the camera didn't catch, and the shoes were just a side effect of whatever passed through that room. A question that, between the location, the history of the house, and a cat that clearly decided it was time to be somewhere else, doesn't have a clean answer and is the kind of thing that tends to stick with you a little. The following clip comes from someone just at home, going about their day. Nothing special about the setting, no vacation rental, no unfamiliar place, just their own house, which in some ways makes it stranger. At some point, they noticed their door moving and decided to start recording. Have a look. The comments, predictably, went straight to draft. And look, that's always going to be the first place people land, and it's not an unreasonable one. Doors move, houses breathe, air comes through gaps you don't even know are there. But the person who posted this pushed back on that pretty firmly. He knows his house, he's lived there long enough to know what a draft looks like, and he says this isn't it. According to him, strange things happen in that house on a fairly regular basis. This clip is just one of the few times he actually had his camera out when something occurred. That context matters. A single moving door is easy to rationalize, but when it's part of a longer pattern, sounds, movements, things that keep adding up over time in the same space, it starts to feel like a different conversation. A lot of people who've lived in genuinely active homes describe it exactly that way. Not one dramatic moment, but a slow accumulation of small things that individually seem explainable and collectively don't. His house has never been formally investigated, and whatever's behind the activity hasn't been identified. But if you ask him, the draft theory stopped being convincing a long time ago. Whether you agree is another matter. I'll leave that one with you. The following clip was captured by a security camera inside a hospital emergency room. And before you watch it, there's one detail worth keeping in mind. There was no air conditioning running in that area and no vents anywhere nearby. Keep your eyes on the curtain.
What the hell?
The receptionist catches it the first time and doesn't react much. The kind of moment where you notice something and decide you probably imagined it. But then it happens again, and this time she can't quite stay in her seat. Now, this wouldn't feel like much on its own if it weren't for the fact that hospitals are actually one of the most commonly reported locations for paranormal activity, and not just by patients. Staff members, nurses, overnight security, people who spend long hours in these buildings regularly describe the same kinds of things. Figures seen at the end of empty hallways, call buttons going off in rooms with no one in them, the feeling of being watched in areas that should be quiet. Some hospitals have so many consistent reports that the staff don't even bring it up anymore. It just becomes part of working the night shift. There's a theory that places where a lot of people have passed through or passed on tend to hold on to something, that the weight of everything that happens inside those walls doesn't just disappear when the lights go off. Whether that's energy, memory, or something else entirely, nobody's been able to say with any certainty. So what moved that curtain? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip starts as a pretty ordinary morning vlog. Jenna's just filming her routine when she hears her daughter yelling from the other room and comes out to report something to her.
Clock is not getting down.
What?
She's not getting down.
Who, honey?
Clock is not getting down.
What's her name?
Clock is not
Kalong?
getting down. Yeah, she's not getting down.
Where is she, honey? Where is she?
She's in the living room. She's not getting off the chair.
Okay. What would you like me to do about this?
She needs to get off the chair because she's gonna fall on her head.
Okay. How does she look?
Looks like she has makeup on herself.
Okay.
She's not listening to my words.
Okay, go tell her to get down and then see if she gets down. Okay.
Kalong, you can get down. Okay. Good job. Thank you. She got down.
Are you playing with her?
Oh yes, I'm using it, man. She was just there on the chair because I liked her to get off, so. But she's on.
Okay.
Her daughter is upset because her friend isn't listening to her. The friend that, as far as anyone can see, isn't there. On its own, an imaginary friend isn't unusual. Kids have them all the time, and most parents don't think twice about it. But then came the detail that stopped people mid-scroll. The name her daughter used caught the attention of several viewers almost immediately because it sounded strikingly close to Kalon Orang, a figure from Javanese and Balinese folklore dating back to the 11th century, described as a powerful witch who practiced black magic and is almost always depicted in full, elaborate makeup. Something the little girl also mentioned about her friend, casually. And that's the part that's hard to brush off. A child describing an imaginary friend as always wearing heavy makeup isn't unheard of, but pairing that with a name that closely mirrors one of the most feared figures in Indonesian folklore, a figure most adults in Western countries wouldn't even recognize, is a combination that made a lot of people stop and reread the comment section. Now, some days later, they're in the car, and her daughter starts to talk about her friend again. So Jenna starts recording.
Kalong gave me a hug.
She did.
Yeah, because she's so nice.
Oh, how old is she?
5.
She's 5. What color of hair does she have?
I don't know. Maybe a yellow hair?
Yellow hair?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Kalong nice or is she mean?
Nice.
She's nice to you?
Yeah.
That's good. What does she wear? What kind of clothes does she wear?
She wears my clothes.
She wears your clothes.
She does. She really wants my clothes because she wanted to wear them.
Oh.
Kalong, are you okay back there? You want me to come with you?
She in the back seat?
Yeah. She wants me to come with her.
Well, you can't. You have to be in your car seat
Why?
because you're 3. Why is Kalong in my car?
Because she wants to.
Okay. Does she follow you everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mom,
Mm-hmm.
maybe me and Kalong can go on a walk tomorrow.
Maybe.
A lot of viewers found it sweet, even a little funny. The way kids describe things with complete sincerity is hard not to smile at, but others couldn't quite let go of what they were hearing underneath it. The specificity of the details, the consistency, the way her daughter talked about this presence like it was as real and solid as anyone else in the room. One comment in particular shifted the tone of the entire thread. A woman wrote that she'd been in a similar situation with her own daughter, who also had an invisible friend she talked about constantly, until the day she fell from a bunk bed and later told her mother that her friend had told her to get up and then pushed her. That comment alone changed how a lot of people looked back at the clip, because there's something about the way children interact with things we can't see that sits in this uncomfortable space between completely explainable and deeply unsettling. And the line between the two isn't always as clear as we'd like it to be. Most of the time, it's nothing. Most of the time, the imaginary friend fades away on its own and the kid grows up and forgets about it entirely. But every so often, a story comes along that makes you wonder. Jenna still believes her daughter is fine, and hopefully she's right. But if it were your child, describing a friend you couldn't see, using a name you didn't recognize, what would you do? This next one comes from fitness influencer Tati D Fitness, and he's just recording himself cleaning the house. Nothing unusual about the day, nothing that felt off in the moment. It's only when he goes back to watch the footage later that he notices something. Listen closely.
Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters, apparently, because I've made many videos in this house and I have never had any type of ghost activity, meaning can't see nothing, there's nothing to be heard on the thing, because I know sometimes cameras and voice recorders pick up other noises. Check this out. So here I was recording on Riverside. Listen to this. Tell me if you don't think it's spooky. It keeps going after that little clip I showed you. There's no kids in the house. Partner's not doing anything. I think it's time to do a cleansing. Or Ghostbusters. Somebody come get this thing out my house. Ugh.
That sound isn't something he put there, and it's not something he heard while he was recording. It only showed up in the playback. Now, the easy explanation would be interference, some kind of signal disruption that found its way into the audio. And that's probably where most people's minds go first. But here's the thing that makes that harder to lean on. He doesn't have kids, and his partner wasn't doing anything in the house that day that could account for it. What makes this particular kind of audio capture so interesting to paranormal researchers is that it falls into a category they've been documenting for a long time. EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, which refers to sounds and voices that appear in recordings without any identifiable source in the physical environment. The theory is that certain frequencies, ones we can't hear in real time, can occasionally be picked up by recording equipment, almost like the camera catches something the human ear simply isn't tuned to receive. Whether that's a glitch in the technology or something else entirely is a conversation that's been going on for decades without a clean resolution. So was it interference, a technical anomaly, or did something decide to make itself heard while he wasn't listening? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip comes from Sammy Bryce, who'd apparently noticed her dog behaving strangely around a particular corner of her home. And this time, she decided to have her camera ready when it happened again. Dogs reacting to things their owners can't see or hear is one of those experiences that's so widely reported, it's almost become its own category of paranormal evidence. And it's not just anecdotal. Animals have sensory ranges that go well beyond what humans are capable of. Sharper hearing, a broader range of frequency detection, and a sense of smell that picks up on changes in an environment that we'd never notice. So there's always a rational window to look through first. But then there's the other side of that conversation, because across almost every culture that has a tradition around the paranormal, animals, and dogs in particular, are consistently described as being able to perceive things that people can't. Not just hear them, but react to them the way they'd react to a physical presence. The growling, the fixed stare at something specific, the refusal to move or look away. It's a pattern that shows up in these accounts over and over again, and Sammy's dog fits it almost exactly. What makes this clip harder to dismiss is the corner itself. The dog isn't reacting to a sound coming from outside, isn't distracted by something moving across the room. It's locked onto one specific spot and it doesn't let up. Anyone who's owned a dog knows the difference between general restlessness and that kind of focused, unwavering attention directed at something that, as far as you can tell, isn't there. Sammy hasn't been able to explain it, and nothing about that corner of her home has given her a clear answer, but her dog seems pretty convinced that something is there. And animals, as a rule, don't growl at nothing. I'll leave it to you to decide what to make of that. This next clip comes from Boob's Brewery, specifically the Alois Bar, and it's just a regular night. A group of people gathered for what looks like a casual meeting. Nothing unusual about the setting, nothing that feels off going into it.
You wouldn't move for anything, even to go to the bathroom. So if you follow down this lovely way to the hole in the floor, that's your bathroom. You would just pee here if you notice. The floor is actually slanted, so you would just go to the bathroom, and they would have a young boy, like 10 to 12 years old. He would be the one that would come in and clean up your yard. You can get Oscar, Henry, and Carl sometimes. We'll go and we'll hit a couple of the other rooms that are outside here too. But you can see some equipment's getting set up. Everyone has their equipment too.
Bear in mind that the person that comes in through the door closed it behind them, firmly shut. And then a little while later, that same door opens on its own. Now, the reason this one is difficult to explain away is that detail right there. The door was shut, not resting against the frame, not slightly ajar, but properly closed. A draft or a change in air pressure might move a door that hasn't caught, but it doesn't pull open a door that's already been pushed to. The physics just doesn't hold up, and several people in the comments were quick to point that out. What adds another layer to this is the location itself. Boob's Brewery is one of the oldest and most well-documented paranormal hotspots in Pennsylvania. Built in the 1800s and operating continuously since then, the building has a long history, and with that comes a long list of reported experiences. Staff who've heard their names called in empty rooms, guests who felt something in the tunnels beneath the building, objects that turn up in places they weren't left. Some believe the brewery's age and the layers of history soaked into its walls make it exactly the kind of place where activity like this is almost expected. Others think the tunnel system running beneath it plays a role. Dark, enclosed, largely undisturbed spaces that some investigators believe act as conductors for whatever energy lingers in a building this old. But what do you think? This next clip starts out as just a sweet moment. A mother and her little girl playing together in front of the camera. The kind of video you record just to have it later. And then the little girl's whole demeanor shifts.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. We're gonna be back in 5 minutes.
I'm not scared.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared.
All right, before you go, say Happy New Year.
I'm scared.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared.
Of what?
I'm scared.
I'm scared too. Of my own life.
My gosh.
There's not a ghost, you psycho. Did you hear that? She said she's afraid of the ghost. Where's the ghost?
Gosh.
Where is it?
I'm
Where's the ghost? Show mommy. Point to it. You're fine. Where is it? Point. Is it over there? Is it over there? Is it over there? Where is it? Is it Grandpa? It's not? What's the matter? Okay, come here. Do you see what I deal with? What happened? See?
Now, before anyone suggests the child was performing, she's still a baby, and anyone who's spent time around children that young knows they simply don't have the emotional range or the cognitive ability to manufacture that kind of reaction on cue. That specific combination of fear, certainty, and distress isn't something you can coach out of a toddler. What you're watching is a real response to something. The question is just what that something is. And this apparently isn't the first time it's happened either, which is the detail that shifts this from a single strange moment into something with a pattern behind it. Some believe that very young children exist in a space where the boundary between what adults can and can't perceive is simply thinner for them. That before the world fully closes in around them, they're still open to things that most people have long since stopped being able to see. Others think there's always a rational explanation, that kids this age are easily overwhelmed and their fears don't always have a visible source. What do you think? This next clip was taken at Phoenix Children's Hospital, where a mother brought her little girl in for what was supposed to be a routine checkup. But during that visit, the two of them encountered something they both described afterward as a friendly ghost.
Okay, go. Who is it?
It's so weird.
Is it you?
Is it me? It's not me.
It's motion sensor. There's no one over there. Okay, do it one more time.
Do it one more time, please.
Okay. One last time.
Okay. Wait, so are we friends now? Can you do it again if we're friends now?
Oh.
We're not friends? You don't like me? Okay.
Are you a doctor?
Are you a... Wait, so do it again if you're a doctor. Wait, are you messing with us or are you actually a doctor? I don't know. Are you just messing with us? Okay. Well.
I don't know.
The little girl seems completely at ease, almost charmed by whatever she's experiencing. But when the mother posted the video online, the comment section told a different story. Former staff members came forward almost immediately, sharing things that had never quite made it into official reports. Televisions turning on in rooms where they'd been unplugged, motion sensors triggering in empty hallways, equipment malfunctioning in specific areas, always at night, never with a clear explanation. And then there was room 28 in the old emergency room, a room that, according to multiple commenters, had been quietly taken out of use after repeated sightings of a small girl inside, not always still, not always passive, sometimes found standing beside patient beds, watching. One father mentioned that during his son's stay, he and his family would hear children laughing and running somewhere beneath them during late night walks near the cafeteria. And every time they went to check, the floor below was completely empty, the floor directly above the morgue. Knowing all of that, that moment between mother and daughter looks a little different now. So, what do you think? Also, have you ever been to Phoenix Children's Hospital? And did you experience anything strange? The following clip you're about to watch was recorded by KK Marie, and what she witnessed that night shook her to her core. I want to make one thing very clear before you watch this. Her daughter was not home that night. According to Marie, she was at a sleepover. With that in mind, take a look at this.
Shh.
Hey, 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 get over here, get over here. Elena?
Mom. It's me. Mom.
Elena?
Open the door. Open the door.
Oh my god.
Of course, Marie didn't open the door, and the longer she waited, the more something shifted in that voice, until what had started as a child asking to be let in became something else entirely, something that dropped the pretense and just said, "Open the door," loud and demanding, like it had run out of patience. Another thing to consider is that they moved into this house just 4 months ago, brand new to the space, and in that vulnerable, unfamiliar period, something found them. There is a concept in paranormal research that some find more disturbing than the idea of a haunting in the traditional sense, the idea of a mimicking entity, a presence that studies the people in a space, learns their voices, learns the names they respond to, and uses that information deliberately, not to communicate, but to manipulate, to get a door opened, or to get someone to lower their guard at the worst possible moment. These accounts exist across cultures and across centuries, and what they share is that same detail. A familiar voice, just slightly off, asking to be let in. The truly chilling part is what might have happened if she had opened that door, because whatever was on the other side knew her daughter's voice well enough to use it, and when that didn't work, it stopped pretending. So what exactly was that? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip comes from a woman who has been living in an old house for 2 years now. And in that time, she's experienced enough to fill a list that most people wouldn't want to read alone at night. But one experience in particular stood out even among everything else she'd been through. A smell. Not just any smell, but the distinct, unmistakable odor of rotten flesh lingering in one of the rooms for 5 straight days. No source, no dead animal found in the walls, no explanation from anyone who came to look. And then, on the 5th day, just as suddenly as it arrived, it was gone. In paranormal research, unexplained smells, particularly the smell of decay, are considered one of the more significant signs of a dark presence. Some investigators believe certain entities carry a physical signature, a scent that bleeds into a space when they are most active, most present, most aware. The fact that it lasted 5 days and then vanished without explanation has never sat right with her, and honestly, it's hard to blame her for that. But as unsettling as that was, she says nothing compares to this. Watch. Now, a rattling doorknob on its own might be explainable, but in a house with a 2-year history of experiences that keep building on each other, it stops feeling like a coincidence and starts feeling like a pattern. And patterns in paranormal research tend to point towards something with intention behind it. There is a theory that sits at the darker end of these conversations, that certain presences don't reveal themselves all at once. They start small, almost testing the boundaries of a space and the person living in it, introducing themselves gradually through smell, through sound, through movement. Each occurrence slightly more direct than the last. The smell that came and went, the sounds she's reported, and now something on the other side of a door, rattling the knob like it's deciding whether or not it's ready to come through. So if this is a pattern, and everything about this house suggests that it is, then the real question isn't what was behind that door. It's what happens when it finally decides to stop knocking and just walks through. This next clip comes from a home security camera. Watch the doll sitting on the floor. Did you see the doll move its head? More than once, slowly turning in the direction of the little girl, like it's watching her play. The movement is unmistakable, and it is not subtle. There is something about a doll that makes this particular kind of clip land differently than most. Dolls are designed to look human. The eyes, the proportions, the stillness of them. And across a wide range of paranormal traditions, there is a long-standing belief that objects modeled after the human form are among the easiest vessels for a presence to inhabit. That something about the shape invites occupation in a way that a chair or a lamp simply doesn't. A doll that turns its head toward a child while the child plays is exactly the kind of thing those accounts describe. And the fact that the little girl has no idea it's happening makes it significantly harder to watch. But that wasn't the end of it. The next part of the clip is even scarier. Now, the instinct is to say wind, except there was no fan running in that room. And what makes that explanation fall apart completely is what happens next. When she runs, it stops. When she comes back, it starts again. The papers, the objects on the table, everything responding directly to her presence. And then, as if making a point, whatever was doing it began dragging the entire table. The wind doesn't pause when a child leaves the room. Wind doesn't wait for her to come back. And wind certainly doesn't drag furniture. What's most disturbing about this case isn't any single clip. It's the fact that whatever is in that house seems specifically interested in her. The doll that watches her play, the papers that react to her movements, the table that moves when she returns. Everything pointing in her direction, everything aware of exactly where she is. In some of the darker corners of paranormal research, there are accounts of attachments, presences that don't haunt a place but haunt a person, following them from room to room, feeding off their energy, drawn to the innocence and openness that young children carry in a way adults simply don't anymore. This little girl has no idea she's being watched, and whatever is watching her has made itself very comfortable in that house. This next clip was posted by a man whose history with whatever is in his house goes far beyond a moving object or a strange sound. Once, while praying and attempting to cast the spirit out, the holy water bottle was knocked clean out of his hands. Another time, sitting quietly at night, something grabbed his head and yanked it backwards. These aren't things he's interpreting. They happened to him, physically, in his own home. And then one night, while he was sleeping, his camera caught this. Under normal circumstances, orb footage is easy to dismiss. A smudge on the lens, a moth crossing the frame, light catching dust. But nothing about this man's situation is normal. When you place this clip inside the context of everything else that has happened in that house, it stops being something you can file away comfortably. The dog is the detail that anchors it. It tracks the orb's exact path in real time, all the way to the bed where its owner is sleeping, completely unaware. And dogs don't follow dust particles. Some believe orbs represent the most basic form a presence takes when it isn't expending the energy required to fully manifest. Others believe they move with far more intention than that. Whatever crossed that room made it all the way to his bed, and he slept through the whole thing. What do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip was recorded in an old house with a history of strange activity, the kind of place where things have been happening long enough that the people involved have stopped being surprised. A room where an old clock has moved on its own before, and strange voices and sounds have been heard, among other things that have never been fully explained. But nothing quite like this.
Mărturisesc că sunt vinovat focului de veci, viermilor neadormiți. Vai de mine! Vai de mine, ce-a fost asta? Oi, să învârtea scaunul! Vai de mine, ai văzut? Doi, să învârtea scaunul! Mamă, frate, ce-a fost asta? Uite așa să învârtea scaunul! Vai de mine, dacă n-am... Vai, Leo, ce-a fost asta? Mamă, frate, am prins-o pe cameră, jur! Oi, haide, mă,
Paranormal researchers believe that there is a significant difference between a presence that passively inhabits a space and one that actively defends it. The latter suggests something territorial, something aware, something that has claimed that room as its own and has no interest in being observed or disturbed. Some investigators believe these kinds of presences grow stronger the longer they go unchallenged. That years of undisturbed occupation in a space gives them a level of energy and authority that makes confrontations like this one almost inevitable. The clock moving on its own was a warning, but this was something else entirely. Two men walked into that room. Whatever was already in there made its feelings very clear. I'll leave you to judge what exactly they were dealing with. This next clip comes from a woman whose relationship with the paranormal goes deeper than most. She's had recurring dreams, or what feel less like dreams and more like memories, of herself living in the early 18th century. Flashbacks of carriages, of suffering, of a life that doesn't belong to her current one, but feels disturbingly familiar. Whether you believe in past lives or not, that kind of recurring, detailed experience is difficult to simply write off as an overactive imagination. So when something strange happens around her, it tends to carry a little more weight than it might with someone else. This time, she and her family were staying at an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and then at 3 a.m., this happens.
Is there someone at the door? That's not creepy.
Her grandfather goes out to check, and there is no one there. No person, no car, nothing as far as the eye can see in any direction. 3 a.m. in an isolated location is already the kind of detail that makes paranormal investigators pay attention. But what makes this particular clip harder to dismiss is the woman it happened to. Because when someone with her history of experiences ends up in a remote location in the dead of night, with a doorbell ringing and no one at the door, it's hard not to wonder whether something followed her there. Some believe certain people are more visible to whatever exists on the other side, that a history of past life memories, of unexplained experiences, acts almost like a signal, drawing attention from things that most people remain completely invisible to. If that's true, then wherever this woman goes, she may never really be alone. No one rang that doorbell, but something wanted them to come to the door. I'll leave you to be the judge of what that something was. This next clip was posted by a concerned mum whose sister and stepdaughter were just recording themselves playing together. Nothing unusual about the moment, just two girls having fun. But then, right after one of them says, no, something else says it too. Listen carefully.
Put your legs down. No, because I'm not doing. No, don't. What's that?
A voice, clear enough to stop them both instantly. No, don't, almost protective in its tone, like whatever said it was watching them play and genuinely didn't want anyone to get hurt. What makes this one particularly interesting is the nature of the voice itself. It wasn't aggressive, it wasn't threatening, it intervened. And that specific quality, a presence that speaks up to protect rather than to frighten, points towards something that some researchers describe as a guardian attachment, an entity connected to a person or a family, one that has appointed itself a kind of silent watchman over the people in that space. Others would argue that the most dangerous presences are precisely the ones that introduce themselves gently, that something willing to speak up in a moment like this is also something that has been in that room long enough to feel comfortable doing so. Either way, whatever spoke in that room that day, it was paying very close attention. This next clip comes from a home security camera, and what it captures happens the moment the owners leave. Fix your eyes on the door, the window, and the stove. If you shift your attention to the window, there's a reflection moving inside the house. Something going from room to room, passing through the space like it owns it, moving freely now that the people who actually live there are gone. And then, for just a moment, when the lights go off, we see what looks like a face, and then the stove comes on. That last detail is the one that tends to silence a room, because a door can be explained, a reflection can be questioned, a face in a window can be argued either way, but a stove turning itself on in an empty house is a physical, mechanical event that requires something to have made it happen. What this clip suggests, and what makes it deeply unsettling, is that whatever is in that house has been waiting, coexisting quietly while the owners are present, and then moving freely, deliberately, the moment they leave. That kind of behavior points towards something with full awareness of the people it shares that space with, something that knows their schedule, knows when they're gone, and has its own way of spending the time. So, what do you think it is? I'll leave you to be the judge. The following clip you're about to watch was posted by a woman who noticed something deeply unsettling after reviewing her Wise camera footage. The TV is on in the background, a movie playing, and the motion sensor is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, picking up the movement on the screen and flagging, which means the sensor was active, responsive, and functioning correctly at the exact moment this was recorded. And then the shadow moves. Now, before anyone suggests the footage was sped up or manipulated, the timestamp is visible at the bottom of the clip, ticking forward in real time, exactly as it should. The TV is playing normally, the picture moving at the right speed. Nothing about the footage that suggests any kind of editing or acceleration. What you're seeing is happening in real time. Have a look.
Rewind it. It didn't even pick up that motion.
Here's what makes this clip genuinely difficult to explain away. You see, a motion sensor works by detecting changes in infrared radiation, heat signatures, physical presence, the displacement of air that comes with movement. The TV triggered it, but the shadow didn't, which means whatever cast that shadow either produced no heat, displaced no air, and left no physical trace that the sensor could identify, or it exists on a frequency that the technology simply has no framework for detecting. In paranormal research, this is referred to as a non-corporeal manifestation, a presence that has enough energy to be visible to a camera lens, but not enough physical density to register on sensors designed to detect living bodies. The fact that it was caught visually but left no motion signature suggests something that exists in a halfway state, present enough to be seen but not fully anchored in the physical world in the way that would make it detectable by conventional means. What that shadow was moving toward, where it came from, and why it chose that particular moment to cross that room, none of it has been answered. But what do you think? In this next clip, you'll see a specific kind of terror reserved for spaces that are supposed to be completely sealed off. When you're out in a trailer, surrounded by nothing but the elements, the lock on that door is the only thing standing between you and the unknown. But what happens when the unknown decides those physical barriers simply don't apply to it? Now, before you watch this clip, consider the mechanics of a standard trailer door. It is designed to be heavy, weather-tight, and secure. For it to not just open from a fully closed, latched position, but to violently and repeatedly slam with enough force to visibly shake the entire structural frame, it requires an immense amount of deliberate physical power. Wind doesn't turn a locked handle. Wind doesn't operate with an aggressive, calculated rhythm. Take a look at what happens when that illusion of safety is entirely shattered. As the outside camera makes chillingly clear, there is absolutely nothing out there pushing it. In paranormal research, this level of violent, repetitive manipulation isn't considered a simple residual haunting. It's classified as an active, targeted intimidation tactic. Entities capable of this kind of kinetic force aren't just passing through. They are making a psychological statement. Some researchers suggest that in highly isolated locations, geographical attachments, spirits bound to the raw land rather than a building, react aggressively to perceived trespassers. By manipulating the one barrier meant to keep the occupant safe, the entity is demonstrating that the lock is entirely useless. What do you think is really waiting on the other side of that threshold? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip was posted by a man named Tristuan. For a while now, he's been dealing with the kind of low-level disturbances that make you question your own sanity, catching fleeting movement out of the corner of his eye, seeing reflections of someone walking past when he's entirely alone, and hearing doors quietly open and close themselves around the house. Unsettling, yes, but something he had managed to live with, until the day the activity stopped being passive and became violently direct. Watch what happens when Tristan, interrupted while just trying to play a video game in his office, finally reaches his breaking point and decides to confront whatever is sharing his home.
If you're walking by my office, I want you to knock it off. Holy. Is that you making all that noise back there? This thing's always closing doors. You need to get out. Dude, will you knock it off, please? You gotta get out. You're gonna lock yourself in the laundry room again? You're not leaving? You're not gonna...
What you're looking at here is a textbook, rapid escalation. In paranormal research, there is a massive difference between residual energy, like a door casually drifting shut on its own, and intelligent, aggressive kinetic force. When Tristan steps out, finds the hallway empty, and verbally demands the entity to knock it off, he is attempting to assert authority over his own space. The response he gets is immediate and chilling. By hurling objects off the kitchen counter right in front of him, the entity is demonstrating that his rules mean absolutely nothing. It's a forceful, physical rejection of his boundaries. But the most unsettling detail isn't the flying objects, it's the door closing in the next room right afterward. That closed door isn't a retreat, it's a deliberate taunt. It's the entity drawing a line in the sand, shifting from quietly coexisting in his home to actively claiming territory. How much of this would you endure before you simply packed your bags and left? The poster of this next clip has experienced enough weird events in his house to install cameras all over. This is normal, and many people do this thinking it'll give them a sense of control, a way to monitor and protect their environment. But what happens when those cameras only serve to document exactly how little control we actually have? Being prepared doesn't make the playback any less unnerving. While the owner was fast asleep, a motion notification pinged their phone. What they woke up to find proves that whatever is walking those halls operates entirely on its own schedule. A grandfather clock is not a lightweight piece of furniture, and the glass casing on the front isn't something that swings open easily. It usually requires a deliberate grip and pull to overcome the latch or the friction of the wood. This isn't a random, chaotic burst of energy knocking a cup off a table. This is a calculated, precise manipulation of a heavy object. But there is something even more chilling about the specific choice of the object itself. A clock is the ultimate symbol of the living world, our way of tracking hours, routines, and normalcy. By physically opening it in the dead of night, the entity might be making a very deliberate statement. As the homeowner themselves noted, this activity happens on their time, not ours. It's a quiet, sinister reminder that once you fall asleep, the rules of the living no longer apply, and the house belongs to them. If an unseen presence can casually open a heavy wooden door just to prove a point while you sleep, what else is it doing just out of frame? In this next clip, we see an old, sprawling industrial factory in the dead of the night shift. There's a specific kind of sinister energy that old factories hold. They are hungry, heavy places, forged from decades of relentless, often dangerous labor. Other employees working this lonely shift have reported similar occurrences for years. Cold spots that move, the sound of footsteps on gantry platforms, and equipment in locked sections inexplicably turning on by itself. They call them residual echoes of those who never truly left the clock. For one patrol worker, those stories were just scary tales until he saw this.
Manche. Yo te deprende, no me grito. Manche, no hay nadie. Manche. Desde hace rato que me andan aventando botas, pero no sé quién es, no, pero no creo que sea nadie.
It's a surreal sight. That door shouldn't be moving like that. It's an automatic door and there's no one there. It's almost as if someone or something is triggering that movement. This is what makes the footage so truly unnerving. Other night shift workers have reported seeing isolated objects move, but this isn't a cup falling off a table. It is a display of focused, kinetic power capable of manipulating heavy machinery. So what do you think happened here? A glitch in a forgotten circuit board, or the ghost of a factory floor that can't let its physical space go? I'll let you decide. The video you are about to watch was posted by a woman who had slowly come to a terrifying, isolating realization. She was no longer alone in her own home. For several months, she experienced a series of unexplained events in her house. It started with small things: items being moved, the sound of footsteps in other rooms, and doors being found open after she was sure she had closed them. Eventually, these disturbances became more frequent and intense. One night, while home alone, she heard a loud crash from downstairs that sounded like heavy furniture being moved or overturned. She decided to record the situation on her phone as she went to investigate.
Oh my god.
When you hear a violent crash in the middle of the night, standard human logic dictates that you are dealing with a break-in. But look closely at her immediate, visceral flight response. She doesn't call out a warning to an intruder. She doesn't grab a weapon to defend herself, and she doesn't freeze in place to listen. The absolute second she hears those heavy, deliberate footsteps rushing up the stairs toward her, her reaction was pure, unfiltered panic. This means she already knew whatever or whoever that was wasn't a human intruder. Now that's not all that happened that night. Have a look at what happens the moment those footsteps reach her landing.
Oh my god.
The heavy footsteps stop right outside her bedroom door, instantly replaced by a violent, erratic rattling of the handle. In paranormal profiling, this specific behavior is categorized as a predatory tactic. An entity vibrating a door handle with that much sustained force isn't struggling with the mechanical lock like a human burglar would. A person tests a knob to see if it gives. This unseen mass is purposefully generating noise to maximize the psychological terror of the person trapped inside. It wants her to hear it trying to get in. It is feeding on the isolation, the anticipation, and the sheer, paralyzing dread of the moment. For a few agonizing seconds, the rattling is the only sound in the house, and then something even scarier happens. there is a chilling theatricality to what just happened. We see the agonizingly slow, deliberate creak of the door opening to reveal a pitch black, entirely empty hallway, followed instantly by an explosive, violent slam. That is not a residual echo playing on a loop. That is an intelligent, highly aware manifestation asserting total dominance over its environment. It opened the door slowly, just to prove that physical barriers and locks mean absolutely nothing to it, and it slammed it shut to demonstrate exactly how much physical, kinetic power it possesses. Unsurprisingly, the woman packed up her life and moved out of that house shortly after capturing this footage. But it leaves us with the most terrifying question in paranormal research. When an unseen presence displays this level of focused, predatory attachment to a specific individual, did she actually leave it behind in that empty house, or did she just pack it up and take it with her? I'll leave you to be the judge. The following clip you're about to watch is a CCTV recording, and whatever you're expecting to see, this probably isn't it. Watch.
But wait, John, it's about to break on its own. It's gonna break on its own.
You have to watch it until it breaks. That's when I start crying.
Watch, John. Are you watching this thing? Yeah. It's not moving. No. Oh, in there. No, watch. Watch, John. Watch.
That hurts so bad.
Nobody listens to me. There's ghosts in here. Nobody listens to me.
Watch it. Watch.
It's still moving! It's still moving, y'all! It's still moving! It's still moving!
If it was in the air, you guys would stop and freak out. It just moved. It's so good. Just get it out. It's so
my hand's shaking. I can't. Nobody listens to me. There's ghosts in this building, and nobody listens to me. I don't know if it's demons. I don't know if it's ghosts, but there is something in this building.
Because I'm telling you, like we've seen, 8 years, stuff just disappeared.
That pool cue begins to move on its own, not sliding, not rolling, but moving the way a marionette moves when someone is working the strings from above, deliberate and controlled. And then, as if that wasn't enough, it snaps, clean in two, by itself, with nothing and no one anywhere near it. You can hear the reaction of the people watching the footage back, screaming, disbelief, the kind of noise a room full of people makes when they all see something at the same time and none of them have a single word for it. And then one voice cuts through all of it, and what he says is perhaps the most unsettling part of the whole clip. Nobody listens to me, there's ghosts in this building. Said like someone who has been trying to tell people something for a very long time and is only now being taken seriously. That detail reframes everything, because it means this wasn't the first strange thing to happen in that building. It was just the first thing strange enough that nobody could look away from it. Whatever had been dismissed, laughed off, or explained away before this moment, this was the thing that finally made the room go quiet. A pool cue doesn't bend and snap on its own. And somewhere in that building, something apparently decided it was tired of being ignored. But what do you think happened here? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next video was captured about 20 years ago by a man who lived in a flat that was built on the same ground where the old gallows once stood. From the moment he moved in, he'd had that constant, uncomfortable feeling of being watched, the kind that doesn't go away no matter how many lights you turn on. One night, he finally caught something on camera. Watch this.
Has it started again? Just stopped. Away again. Explain that. That's freaky. Is anybody there? Oh, f*** that.
This might look like an ordinary enough sight, except for one detail that changes everything. That lamp wasn't plugged in. There was no power going to it, no electrical current, no connection to anything, and yet there it was, switching on and off in an empty socket, like something was running through it that had nothing to do with electricity. He wasn't the only one who felt that way either. Other tenants in that building talked about hearing heavy footsteps pacing the corridors late at night when no one was there, and one neighbor claimed she'd woken up to find a shadowy figure standing by her window, the shape of a man, head tilted slightly forward like he had a noose around his neck. When he posted the footage, something unexpected happened. People who had lived in that same building years before started coming forward with their own stories, experiences they'd kept quiet for a long time because they didn't think anyone would believe them. This clip might look simple on the surface, but an unplugged lamp doesn't flicker, and the ground that building stands on has a history that doesn't stay buried as quietly as people would like. So, what exactly happened here? This next clip is just regular home security camera footage posted by Peach Assassin, or at least that's what it should have been before something very, very strange happened. Look closely at her hair.
Because my search is 6 and I am 1. I gave you 6 points, I'm deducting 7. This is ridiculous. Don't make me think about numbers again. A brave and accurate decision. Yes, my captain. Yes. Yeah, holy captain, your horticulture is harvestable. Ah, good. Oh, thank you. Fine. Hurry happily, and Hank, he's hungry. Hollow hippo.
Something pulls it, not a subtle shift, not the kind of movement you'd blame on her turning her head, an actual pull. And there is nothing and no one there to account for it. Her dog is right beside her when it happens. And that detail matters because the dog's reaction is immediate. Startled, alert, looking around for something it clearly sensed but couldn't locate, and the dog is nowhere near her hair. Whatever caused that reaction, the dog felt it too, which takes the idea of a simple glitch or camera trick off the table fairly quickly. Animals don't startle at optical illusions. Hair being physically manipulated by an unseen presence is one of the more commonly reported forms of paranormal contact. And what makes those accounts so consistent is the specificity of it. Not a general feeling of being touched, but something deliberate, something that reaches for a particular part of a person as if trying to get their attention. This footage fits that description almost exactly. She wasn't looking for anything that day. She wasn't investigating. She wasn't recording for content. She was just at home with her dog going about her evening. And something decided that was the right moment to make itself known. So, what exactly happened here? A draft? A loose strand of hair? A trick of the camera? Or something in that room that decided it had been patient enough? I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip comes from Isaac Abram George, a paranormal content creator who lives alone. And on this particular day, he started hearing sounds coming from an empty room in his house. A room that belongs to no one. A room he refers to as Mr. Patterson's. Not wanting to go in, he did what made the most sense to him. Set his camera up in the hallway, pointing toward the room, and went to take a shower. Whatever was in there, he wanted the camera to see it. Focus on the room across the hall. The lights come on by themselves. And if you look closely, moving around inside that lit room, there's what appears to be the shadow of a person. Then the door opens on its own, the lights cycling on and off as it does, like something is moving through the space while he's standing under the shower, completely unaware. Now, before anyone suggests it could have been him, the same footage shows him walking into the bathroom, a completely separate room. And if that wasn't enough, you can actually hear him in the shower, singing, while all of this is happening across the hall. He is fully accounted for. Whatever turned those lights on, whatever is casting that shadow and pulling that door open, it isn't him. He lives alone. There is no Mr. Patterson. There is no one in that house who could have turned those lights on, and there is no one who should be casting a shadow on those walls. What's unsettling about this one isn't just what the camera caught, it's the name. Because you don't give a room a name unless something about it has made itself known to you. That kind of familiarity suggests this isn't the first conversation Isaac has had with whatever occupies that space. It's just the first time he got it on camera. So the real question isn't what was in that room. The real question is, how long has it been there? And does it know that Isaac can hear it too? This next clip comes from an office security camera at 3:17 in the morning when there was no one in the building.
Keep watching the chair. This was at 3:17 a.m. when the station was closed.
The chair moves just a little at first, like something is settling into it, and then significantly more, like whatever settled in decided to get comfortable. Now, the usual explanation for something like this would be airflow, a vent, a draft, something environmental that could shift a chair on a wheeled base. But everything else in that office stays completely still. The other chair, the furniture, nothing else in the frame reacts at all. A draft doesn't single out one chair and leave everything around it untouched. And whatever is moving that chair isn't interested in anything else in the room. There's a reason 3 a.m. carries the reputation it does in paranormal research. It comes up so consistently across so many different accounts and so many different cultures that investigators have given it its own name, the witching hour, the point in the night where the boundary between what we can and can't perceive is said to be at its thinnest. But as it turns out, that chair wasn't the only strange thing to happen in that building, because somewhere in the underground corridor of that same office, another recording captured something that made the chair look like the least of anyone's concerns. A man is walking through what looks like a basement passageway when something stops him in his tracks. Focus on the bottle on the floor.
Feels down here tonight. Like proper weird.
He hears a woman's voice telling him to stand there, but he keeps walking. And what happens next is where this clip stops being easy to dismiss, because whatever that voice belonged to didn't appreciate being ignored, and the bottle on the floor pays for it, sent flying with a force that has nothing gentle or accidental about it, and the man recording doesn't stick around to find out what comes after that. The voice itself is what unsettles people the most on first watch, not because it's loud or aggressive at first, but because it isn't. It starts as an instruction, almost calm, the kind of tone that assumes it will be listened to. It's only when it's ignored that everything shifts, and that escalation from quiet command to violent reaction suggests something with awareness behind it, something that expected to be obeyed. Paranormal researchers often describe this kind of encounter as a territorial presence, something that has claimed a space and doesn't take kindly to people passing through it uninvited. And underground spaces in particular tend to be exactly where that kind of energy concentrates. So whatever was sitting in that chair at 3:17 in the morning, it wasn't the only thing in that building. And judging by what happened in that corridor, it wasn't the friendliest either. What do you think is really happening in that building? I'll leave you to judge. This next clip was taken in an old, battered building that clearly didn't want to be disturbed. Keep your eyes on the old clock on the shelf.
M-a luat rău, pe bune. Deci pe bune m-a luat rău, frate. Ia uite-le, l-a rotit tot. L-a rotit tot, frate, tu ești nebun la cap.
Băi, ești nebun. Băi, omule. Poruncile tale n-am păzit, judecățile și dreptățile tale. N-am mâncat, aș spune. N-am, mă. Mamă, frate, mă, ești... N-am, mă, mâncat, mi-ați paranormalul să mi-l mâncați, mă, na. Poruncile tale n-am păzit, judecățile și dreptățile tale le-am călcat. Ia, ce s-a auzit? Fai de mine dacă nu ne... Ia, auzi. Mi-am supus tătă casă, stai că-mi tremură mâna. Să-l smulge, lasă-l smulgă.
The reaction in that room is immediate. Shouting, praying, two people who went from completely calm to absolutely terrified in the space of a second. That kind of reaction isn't performed. You can't fake the way a person's voice sounds when something they just watched with their own eyes has no explanation. Now, a clock moving on a shelf isn't impossible to explain on paper. Vibrations, an uneven surface, something knocking against the furniture from another room. But there's a reason those explanations feel hollow when you watch this clip, and it's because of the object itself. Clocks carry a particular weight in paranormal tradition across many different cultures. They've long been associated with the marking of significant moments, births, deaths, transitions, and there are countless accounts of clocks stopping, starting, or moving at moments that seem tied to something beyond the mechanical. An old clock especially, one that has sat in the same place long enough to become part of the background of a home, moving on its own, is the kind of thing that tends to mean something to the people who witness it. Both of them knew that. You can hear it in the way they reacted, not just scared, but reaching for something bigger than fear. But if you were standing in that room and that clock moved, what would you say you're dealing with? The following clip is about a family who for months have been waking up in the middle of the night to sounds they can't explain. And what makes it particularly unsettling isn't just the sounds themselves, it's the fact that they never repeat the same way twice, yet always carry the same feeling, the same heavy, aware presence, like whatever is inside that house knows exactly where they are and is in no particular hurry to make itself known. Some nights, it's footsteps, stopping directly beneath their bedroom and just staying there. Other nights, it's something different, something harder to place. But one night, they heard something that gave them their first real clue about what they might be dealing with. Outside, something was playing with their dog's toy, and when they went out to confront whatever was there, they found nothing. The comments pulled in a few different directions on this one. Some viewers felt that if this were paranormal, the dog toy was a significant detail, that it could point to the spirit of a child, drawn to something familiar, replaying an innocent moment from a life that ended too soon. Others weren't so comfortable with that interpretation, suggesting that certain entities are known to mimic harmless behavior deliberately, using something playful and non-threatening to create confusion rather than immediate fear. There are darker theories too, that some presences are drawn to the emotional reactions that objects connected to animals tend to provoke, that the attention and fear and curiosity that follows is exactly what keeps them close. The family had already tried saging the house by the time this clip was posted, a cleansing practice rooted in traditions across multiple cultures, intended to clear a space of unwanted energy and restore some kind of balance. It didn't work. The activity continued exactly as before, as though whatever is in that home acknowledged the effort and carried on regardless. That detail is perhaps the most unsettling thing about this whole case. Not the footsteps, not the toy, not even the sounds in the night, but the fact that they tried to make it leave and it simply didn't. It's still there, moving through their halls, interacting with their belongings, making itself known only when it feels like it. And for this family, every night is just another night of waiting to find out what it decides to do next. Until more updates are shared, this unsettling case remains a mystery. The following clip you're about to watch is a compilation of 2 separate incidents, 2 different stores, but connected by the same deeply unsettling thread of objects that should be completely inanimate, deciding otherwise. The first comes from a night watchman working the closing shift in the toy section of a department store. He was doing his rounds when the dolls started going off. Not 1 or 2, but a whole shelf of them simultaneously. A section full of dolls, all making noise at the same time, in a store that had been empty for hours, with no customers, no children, nothing that should have triggered them all at once. Pay close attention toward the very end of this clip. One of the dolls turns its head and looks directly at him. The simultaneous activation is the detail that removes the easy explanations. A single doll going off can be a sensor malfunction, a battery issue, a vibration from somewhere in the building. But all of them, together, at the same time, in a closed store after midnight, points toward something that moved through that aisle and triggered every single one as it passed. And then there's the second location. It's an exhibition. And this one is perhaps even harder to explain than the first, because at least the dolls had electronics inside them, sensors, batteries, something mechanical that could theoretically malfunction. What gets captured at the exhibition has none of that. The skulls on display there are made of cardboard and paper, the kind handed out in schools, simple craft materials, nothing inside them, nothing that moves, nothing that could possibly account for what the camera catches. And yet one of them turns its head.
Hechas de cartón y papel, como las que dan en las escuelas.
A paper skull turning its head has exactly one explanation available to it, and it isn't a technical one. Exhibition spaces and department stores cycle through objects and artifacts from countless sources, absorbing the energy of everything that passes through them. In both of these locations, something moved through an object that had no business moving, one with electronics that all fired at once, and one made of paper that shouldn't have been able to move at all. Whatever passed through that toy aisle, and whatever turned that paper skull, they both made their presence known through the objects closest to them. And the question worth asking is how many other objects in how many other stores are doing the same thing when the lights go off and nobody's watching? This next clip was posted by a frightened mother, and you'll soon see why she was frightened. But before you watch the clip, let's have a little background. The little girl had already told her mum that someone was in the bedroom before this was recorded. Not something, someone. Specific enough that she asked her mum to close the door and not go in. What you're about to watch isn't a child being dramatically scared of the dark or working herself up over nothing. This is a little girl who has seen something, who knows what she saw, and who is not willing to let her mother go back into that room under any circumstances.
Blakey, you okay?
There's nothing you can do or say to change that.
I love you. Do you want me to go open the door? Why? No?
Sucks for you.
Okay, I'm honestly freaking the fuck out and I don't know what to do. Just a couple minutes ago, I got up and I closed my door because she kept pointing to my room saying, Mommy, Mommy, someone's over there. And she was terrified. She was terrified. Of course, freaking me out. So I went over there and she just said, no, Mommy, come here, Mommy, sit, Mommy, don't go over there. And so I called the dog and I closed the motherfucking door. And as you can see, dude, she's still terrified. She's still terrified. She doesn't want me going over there. She doesn't want me opening the door. I'm terrified.
The mom tries to reason with her, asked if she can go open the door, and the answer is a firm, unwavering no. The kind of no that doesn't come from imagination, but from certainty. But that was only the beginning of what this family captured. The same night, the mom does what any parent torn between protecting their child and finding a rational explanation eventually does. She gets up. She tells her daughter she's going to check the room, that she'll be right back, keeping her voice steady and calm the way parents do when they're trying not to transfer their own fear. And the little girl's response is immediate. She hides her face and then she starts to cry. Not a tantrum, not frustration, the kind of crying that comes from genuine terror, from watching someone you love walk towards something you know is there and being completely unable to stop them. Watch.
Blakey, Mommy's gonna go open the door, okay? I'll be right back. It's okay. I'll be right back. And now she's hiding her face. It's okay, baby. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, tell me I'm not... What do I do?
There is a belief that runs through almost every culture that has ever documented paranormal experiences, that children, particularly young ones, exist in a state of perception that adults have long since closed off. That somewhere in growing up, in learning to categorize and rationalize and explain the world, we lose access to something we were born with. And that what looks like an overactive imagination in a frightened child is sometimes something else entirely. A clarity that the adults around them simply no longer have the equipment to share. Children that age don't sustain manufactured fear like that. They move on, they get distracted, and they forget. But this child didn't forget, and several hours later, she still insists on not letting her mum go into the room, a place the little girl normally likes to run into and play around in. Some believe these presences are residual, tied to the home, to something that happened within those walls before the family arrived. Others believe they follow, that they attach not to a place, but to a person, specifically to a child, and move with them wherever they go. Which brings us to years later, a new house, a fresh start in a completely different space, with no history, no reason to expect anything to carry over from before, and then this happens. "10 minutes of sustained, focused aggression directed at something in a room that appears completely empty. Not the startled reaction of an animal that heard a noise outside or caught a scent through a window. 10 minutes of unbroken, unwavering attention fixed on a specific point in a brand new house that this family had barely settled into. The little girl from those earlier videos is older now. The house is different. Everything around her has changed. But that dog growled for 10 straight minutes at something. Make of that what you will." This next clip comes from Indonesia, posted by someone who describes this as their first encounter. Every evening after Maghrib, the Islamic prayer that marks the end of daylight, a shadow would appear through the glass block vent in their boarding room. Consistent, predictable, returning at the same time every single evening, like something that had put it in its schedule. At first, they didn't think much of it. Shadows have explanations, and the mind is very good at finding them when it wants to. And then they mentioned it to the boarding house keeper. Whatever the keeper told them in that conversation, it was enough to make them understand immediately that what they had been seeing every evening after sunset was not something that could be explained away. That was the moment, as they described it, that they realized this was their first terror. Take a look. Now, before the instinct to suggest someone outside casting a shadow takes over, that vent is positioned high enough off the ground that no person could reach it, climb to it, or stand anywhere near it to cast anything through it. The height alone removes the human explanation entirely. Whatever is appearing through that glass block every evening after Maghrib is not standing on the ground to do it. In Indonesian spiritual tradition, the timing is significant in a way that goes beyond coincidence. Maghrib is considered one of the most spiritually vulnerable times of day, the transitional window between light and dark, where the boundary between the physical world and the unseen world is at its thinnest. It is a time when Muslims are specifically encouraged to be inside, to pray, to seek protection, and it is a time that certain presences are believed to use deliberately, arriving at the exact moment when that boundary weakens and the conditions are most favorable for them to be seen. Whatever was appearing through that vent every evening after Maghrib was not lost. It knew exactly which room to come to. This next clip was posted by Cruz Drosa, someone who is both Native American and Mexican. He's babysitting his niece and nephew when his niece starts pointing at the hallway. He can't see anything, but he knows this house well enough that he doesn't need to see something to take it seriously, so he pulls out his phone. Because this is a house where the toilet has flushed on its own with nobody in the bathroom. More than once, the kind of detail that stops being a plumbing issue after the third or fourth time and starts being something else entirely. So when a small child starts pointing at a dark hallway with the kind of focused certainty that children have when they're seeing something real, he listens.
Who are you pointing at? Who is he? How come you keep pointing? Where's he at? Is he over there?
Will you read it to us, please?
Who is he? My niece keeps pointing at someone right here in this little hallway. I'm not really sure who it is, but yeah, she's like pointing upwards. They must be tall or something. Look, she's pointing again, look.
She keeps pointing, attention fixed, completely unmoved by his attempts to show her the hallway is empty. And so he decides to go look for himself. He walks toward the hallway, phone recording, moving into the darkness that his niece has been pointing at with total conviction. He can't see anything, but the hallway apparently has something to say about being investigated, because something even stranger happens. Something drops to the floor in front of them, out of nowhere, thrown from somewhere in the dark with enough force and direction that there is no version of gravity that accounts for it. Something threw that battery, and whatever threw it was standing in the part of the hallway his niece had been pointing at all along.
Yeah, she sensed something though. Like, it's crazy because, like, I know I'm just babysitting my niece and nephew. My nephew's right here. Then it's her, and then she keeps pointing at something. What is that? Yeah, man. And then she grabbed this lantern right here. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Viewers in the comments immediately started telling him to download a spirit box or ghost tube, apps that paranormal investigators use to attempt direct communication with presences, converting audio frequencies into words in real time. The suggestion alone tells you how seriously people who watched that battery drop took what they were seeing. This wasn't a crowd telling him to check his wiring or call a plumber. This was a crowd telling him to open a line of communication with whatever was standing in that hallway. But Krusdrosa had a different approach. His niece was scared, and whatever was in that hallway, whatever had been flushing toilets in that house, and was now throwing batteries at people who came looking for it, had officially crossed a line. So he does what anyone who has grown up navigating the space between the physical world and the spiritual one learns to do. He addresses it directly, out loud.
You gotta get out of here, man. You gotta leave, man. Honestly. You're not welcomed here. Leave. Whoever you are, leave. You're scaring my niece. Look, she keeps pointing at you. Get the fuck out of here, man.
There is something significant about the cultural context here that goes beyond a general belief in the paranormal. Both Native American and Mexican spiritual traditions carry deep, specific frameworks for dealing with presences that occupy shared spaces. Traditions that don't just acknowledge the existence of entities, but provide direct, practice methods for confronting them. The command he issues isn't born from panic or bravado. It comes from a cultural inheritance that has been navigating exactly these kinds of encounters for generations, long before ghost hunting became a hobby. Whether what was in that hallway listened, whether it left or simply went quiet, is something only that house knows. But a child who pointed at the same spot through 3 separate clips, a battery thrown from the dark, and a toilet that flushes itself when the bathroom is empty all point towards something that has been in that house long enough to feel comfortable there. And the question worth sitting with is whether one command from an uncle protecting his niece was enough to convince it to find somewhere else to be, or whether it's still standing in that hallway waiting for the next person to come looking. I'll leave you with that one. This next clip was posted by a mother who was sitting outside in her compound, gently rocking her 4-month-old daughter in a chair. The baby is almost asleep when something pulls her out of it. She startles, and then she looks directly toward the gate. Not the unfocused, wandering gaze of a sleepy infant, but a locked, alert stare fixed on one specific point. The way you look when something has genuinely caught your attention. Watch closely.
Sí, mira, quiero que observes bien este video y me digas qué te parece. Puede ser cualquier cosa, pudo ser una persona, pero realmente con seguridad no te sé qué decir. Observa los movimientos de mi hija de 4 meses, cómo ya está casi dormida y ahorita en un ratito como que se altera. El video no tiene audio, así que por eso se lo estoy relatando. Vean ahí cómo se alteró mi hija y ve directamente hacia el portón. Miren, ahí está observando, ahí se asomó algo. Vean eso. Vean lo extraño que el color de piel que tiene eso, vean. Y mi hija ahí está alterada y si se dan cuenta, no deja de mirar hacia el portón. Vean, mi hija está mirándolo. Ahí se volteó y eso se desvaneció. Bastante extraño.
Something is there at the gate. The skin color of it, as the mother describes it, is wrong. Strange enough that she points it out specifically, that detail catching her attention above everything else. And the baby doesn't look away, 4 months old, barely able to hold her own head up, and she tracks it with the kind of sustained focus that infants simply don't maintain unless something is genuinely holding their attention, and then it fades. There is a belief held across many cultures that newborns and very young infants exist closest to whatever exists on the other side, that they arrived so recently from wherever we come from that the boundary hasn't fully closed around them yet, and that what they see in those early months is sometimes more than what the rest of us can perceive. So, what do you think? Was it a person? The mother isn't sure, but people don't just fade. I'll leave you to be the judge of that. This next clip comes from an office where something had apparently been making itself known for a while, specifically when someone stayed back alone. Staff had been hearing things they couldn't explain, that particular unease of being the last one in a building that starts feeling less empty the longer you're in it. So they pulled up the security footage to finally see what had been keeping them company all those late nights. And this was their reaction when they saw it.
Where's the ghost?
Oh my god, it's moving around.
That is freaky.
Oh
and it
God.
moves so fast. No, keep going because it'll come back.
Right there.
No, y se asoma la cámara también. It goes towards the camera.
Does it come back or does it just stop right there?
No, it continues. It comes back. And this is the same one that's in our office after everybody leaves because I can freaking hear it.
There it is. Mm-hmm.
What the freak?
And it moves fast.
Ando bien alterado.
Se tomó Red Bull.
More? Wow.
It does.
I said hi. It waved to the camera. You saw?
Mira, mira. We didn't see all that shit.
Oh my god.
We didn't get this far.
We didn't get this far because we were so impressed by the first one.
Wait.
Sí,
Oh, we didn't get this far?
No.
There's more.
This far.
It keeps coming back.
She keeps setting the cameras up. Mira. You can see the time. Mira, ahí va, otra vez. Hala.
This is crazy.
Anda buscando a la gente, güey.
You can clear it.
Un pedazo de lid to the dust.
No, that moves that fast, Crystal.
No, and then on the same area, there's no vents right there. A ver, vamos a ver qué pasa ahí.
It's
Mira, ahí va.
49. It's on the right
Come on
side.
again. Mira, there it is. Mira. Mira.
Oh my god, that gave me chills. That was like a person.
You can
that was like a
sometimes
person.
you can see the silhouette as a person.
Yeah.
That one was formed bigger. That one was. Oh my god, I'm getting chills. I quit.
You never thought we'd catch it, huh?
No.
We never check the cameras. No, when we check the cameras for somebody, always looking for somebody. We don't pay attention to this. To the ghost. No.
Who's on call?
We need to check the one in the office.
Mira.
Right there, did you see that?
Mira.
I know your first thought is dust. And yes, security cameras pick up dust all the time, floating and drifting in the light. But dust doesn't move like this. Dust drifts. It follows air currents passively, carried by whatever is moving around it. What's in this footage moves with intention, changing direction, navigating the space, behaving less like a particle caught in airflow and more like something that knows where it's going. The co-workers watching that playback together felt it immediately. You can hear it in their voices, the sharp reactions, the genuinely unsettled energy of a group of people who went into that viewing expecting to find nothing and came out of it with goosebumps and a completely different relationship with their office after hours. Whatever that camera captured at 4:47 in the morning in an empty office, it wasn't drifting. It was moving with the quiet, unhurried confidence of something that had been in that building long before any of them showed up for work. So, what do you think it is? I'll leave you to be the judge. The clip you're about to watch comes from TikTok creator Izzy Coco, who believes her apartment is shared by a spectral guest she's named Patricia. For hours, she had her door propped open, but after a while, the door suddenly closed. After witnessing this, she decides to communicate directly with the presence.
Okay, so I've been laying here in bed like almost all day, and I've had my door propped open like this all day. I've had the fan on all day, the AC has been on all day. Oh, and the door hasn't moved. But I was laying here and the door literally shut on its own. I don't know, do y'all see that? Like, it has not been doing it all day. Okay. And the AC is on right now. Like, it just kicked on. So if the door was gonna fully shut on its own, it would have done it already. So, Patricia, if you're here and you have the energy to do so, please shut the door one more time. I don't know. Oh.
The creator believes that the spirit actually followed her family back, a phenomenon often called a hitchhiker ghost. These entities are thought to bond with individuals rather than specific locations, traveling with them across any distance. While skeptics in the comments argue that the AC cycling could create a simple pressure change, many viewers find the timing of the door's response to her verbal request too precise to be a mere coincidence. Some have even theorized that Patricia might be a protective entity, given the creator's remarkably calm demeanor during the encounter. Others point out that for a spirit to not only move, but physically latch a door into its frame requires a massive surge of energy, a trait often associated with an intelligent haunting, where the entity is fully aware of its surroundings. Is Patricia a lingering attachment from her past, or just a trick of physics? I'll leave you to be the judge. The clip you're about to watch comes from TikTok creator Perry64, who shared a terrifying sequence of events that began while she and her roommate were home alone. After hearing a series of unexplainable heavy noises, they decided to jump through the window.
I'm recording. Wait. Do you hear that? Can you check the security footage? Oh my god. What is it?
Clear.
If you listen carefully, just as they leave, the bedroom door slams shut violently. Later, security footage shows their kitchen vacuum activating by itself, with a green motion tracking box following it closely. Most unsettling is when the tracking box suddenly expands in size, almost as if there's an invisible entity standing right beside the machine. The timing of the door slam has led many to speculate that this was an intelligent haunting where the entity was fully aware of the roommate's presence and reacted physically to their departure. Some viewers in the comments pointed out that the security logs specifically flagged a person at the exact moment the vacuum encountered the invisible obstacle, a detail that is incredibly difficult for skeptics to dismiss. Others theorize that spirits may actually be drawn to the electromagnetic fields of smart home devices, using that energy to manifest their presence to the camera's AI. Is this technology giving us a window into the unseen world, or is it just a digital glitch? You decide. In this next footage, the owner was just trying to have a peaceful moment in her bathroom when her dog began acting as if he was staring down an intruder. The dog is visibly on edge, looking intensely at the ceiling and growling. paranormal researchers often point to this as canine awareness, claiming that animals can perceive visual spectrums and auditory frequencies that are completely locked away from human senses. Some viewers in the comments speculated that the dog was tracking a shadow person moving across the ceiling. There's even a theory that dogs can sense the energy signature or intent of a spirit, which would explain his immediate and fierce defensive stance despite there being no visible threat. So, was this just a series of technical glitches and a confused pet, or did the dog successfully scare off a spectral visitor? I'll let you be the judge. After his partner and dog left for a walk, he began hearing something strange. So, armed with a knife and his phone, he decided to investigate the house to see if he could catch the source of the sounds. But the most polarizing moment occurs when the security feed suddenly goes dark. While the creator describes it as the camera going blank, many eagle-eyed viewers are convinced it wasn't a glitch at all.
Up and down all day and just stared into a room and just whimpering back and forth. We're not gonna pretend like the decor up there is normal by any means. And then the camera did the weirdest thing, it just went blank. So she went back to check that night, and finally we captured the laughter on the cameras. Her motion had set it off and saved the clips, and to this very day we cannot explain what happened that day. Everything's been disconnected electronically in the house.
They believe a massive dark figure leaned directly into the lens, its features completely obscuring the view for several seconds. This theory is supported by the behavior of the dog, who is seen whimpering and staring into the empty rooms, as if watching a visitor invisible to us. Whether it was a hardware failure or a face in the lens, the creator was so unsettled he has since disconnected every electronic device in the house. Is this a genuine ghost caught on tape or a sophisticated prank? I'll leave that for you to decide. In this next clip, the mother was in the shower while her young daughter was playing on the couch downstairs. The footage, captured by a Ring security camera, shows the little girl suddenly halting her play and letting out a piercing scream, reacting as if she was physically struck or hurt by an invisible force.
Blowing off steam. But now at the casino, she's playing to avenge Paul's death. She lures Victor into a trap, letting him gain his confidence, win a few hands just to see what his tendencies are. But then she goes for the throat.
Within 4 hours, Sally has cleaned Victor out, winning the entire $100,000 pot.
Frequently, in a poker game like this, because the stakes are so high and emotions are so high, often these disputes are carried away from the poker table. You would become so angry that you would act out violently.
Instead of just leaving the game this time, Sally's scared for...
According to the owner of the video, this is far from an isolated incident. The family has experienced several disturbing physical encounters since moving in just a month and a half ago. In the world of the paranormal, this is often described as a violent haunting, where an entity has progressed beyond simple shadows to actual physical aggression. Unlike typical spirits that seek to be noticed, these malevolent presences are thought to be territorial, often targeting the most vulnerable members of a household. Many viewers in the comments urged the family to seek spiritual help or move out immediately, noting that the entity seems to be escalating its behavior. Is this a case of a house that refuses to accept new owners, or is something much darker feeding off the family's fear? I'll let you be the judge.